thanks everybody for
No,
being with us.
I mean,
yeah.
it happens, so. Yeah.
This is, we were definitely happy to come up, and thanks so much for your business. And we just kind of got started with you, and hopefully we'll take you through a little bit of training today. Kim's got a good presentation on that, and then if you have questions and you want to dive a little deeper on something, please don't hold back. Let us know, and if there's answers we can't get for you right away, I'll definitely get those and get back with you immediately. So other than that, after maybe we can start with good news. That's up to Kim, but we definitely want to deliver you some news on the licensing because you had some questions. Since what, December, January? Is this when that conversation started?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness. So I think we'll let her do that. Go through a presentation, kind of talk about where you're going as a college and what you see as being some needs down the road that I'd love to help you with. But anything we can do. Thanks for being a great partner.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Kim, and thanks Justin and Bruce for letting me join you guys today. I'm an education consultant for SMART. I used to work for Tyranny, actually, and I did professional development for them for over 6 years. So I've been a SMART certified trainer for a really long time, so it kind of was a natural progression to go directly to SMART. This is our latest and greatest series of boards that you probably know. They're so new that I haven't even seen one or touched one until today, so thank you for that.
Wow.
That's that's kind of cool. I love that the input panel is now here instead of behind, and it's hard to reach. So, and then of course you have the 4 pens, which a lot of SMART users were requesting that the panels have the 4 pens again, so they listened and they did that. That nice change. You can have 4 users using simultaneous tools at the same time, which we'll kind of demonstrate. Other than that, it does take 16 simultaneous touches. So I don't know if you'd have that many touches up here, but that's kind of quite a bit. But let's talk about licensing because that's I know a point of contention from before. So when I started in April with SMART, I kind of was just learning, the history of our customers and especially our university customers, and not really, just trying to grasp my head around that and seeing what the history was. And Justin filled me in on what the history was with Kent State specifically. So after hearing kind of your needs, I went to my boss and I said, what can we do for them? So he's willing to adjust whatever licenses you need to however many you need. So really what I need to know from you going after today is how many licenses you need, and do you want it to be the same license that you already have, and then we just multiply that by X number. And if that's not what you need, do you need a separate license code for your students? So you just maybe need to think about that. Like, would you want one license for everybody? Or do you want, sometimes schools will want separate licenses for student devices. So then maybe they can monitor that in a different way as far as downloads go of Notebook. But so think about that. You don't have to tell me today, but in the near future so we can get those licenses ordered for you.
Is that something that would be easier to manage if a student is graduating and leaving, and now I have that license back and I can issue it to somebody else?
Exactly, and I think that's why a lot of schools do it that way. They might have a computer lab full of Notebook on their computers, and they might want to say, okay, that's going to be out of this pool of licenses for whatever reason. So it's just going to be how you want to manage that. For every license, you do get 4 downloads of Smart Notebook. So keep that in mind as well. So whatever number you're going to request, times that by 4, because I'm assuming it's going to be, your students who you're going to probably use the licenses for, they're going to use Notebook specifically.
Yeah.
So, right. So, and then really today I want to learn about how you envision these panels being used. So we're going to do a little activity that kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone, where you're going to see one of the features of the Smart Learning Suite at the same time as I'm learning information from you. So we're going to start there. So let's go ahead and start. I was a former teacher too, so I actually took classes online at Kent State years ago when I was getting my master's, but I taught social studies. I taught high school economics and government. So I had a smart board, not this fancy of course, but it was, I used it every day while teaching, so I absolutely loved it. So I thought we would do introductions, formal introductions, next, and then we'll go through, I'm going to learn about just how you want to use these panels in your environments, because I know each room might be different of how they're going to be used, so I just kind of, they'll kind of guide me to show you the specific features that you need to know. And then we'll talk about the more instructional use of how these can be used. So I already told you a little bit about myself, but if you don't mind just introducing ourselves again, and then I'll have it locked down.
Sure, no problem. I'm Julie Henry.
Julie, okay.
And I'm the director of the Instructional Resource Center, and I manage the computer labs in our building too. And I've taught educational technology. I'm not sure if they want me this year or not yet. They wait till the last minute. But so typically I'm teaching pre-service teachers.
Okay.
So the smart board's pretty important.
In this room?
In this room,
okay.
And then the other 3 computer labs on this floor.
Okay, so this will definitely be utilized showing instructional strategies and activities.
Yes, in fact, this is kind of, this room is also set up kind of so that either new faculty or pre-service teachers or whomever is interested can come in here and practice and just play around with learning the teacher station, learning how to use the board, just to get comfortable before they're in front of a group of students.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Thank you for
no
explaining
problem.
that. That's awesome. I know we had met, but...
Yeah, my name is Phoebe.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate assistant working for Julie this
Okay,
summer.
awesome. Very good.
I'm glad to have a chance to learn to know more about the smart board.
Yeah.
I played with it a little bit earlier when it was installed.
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
still have some like, okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can know more today.
Yeah.
And Phoebe also taught educational technology,
Oh,
so she
okay.
also had the pre-service teachers.
Did you know? Okay, perfect, awesome. And then
Alan
there's
Penner,
Alan.
video engineer, electrical engineer profession, and that's it. I mean,
That's it.
installer,
Yeah,
smart board installer.
Supporter, yeah, awesome. And Annette, right?
Yeah, Annette Krakowski. So my role's a little different. I direct a research center.
Okay.
It's with Housing Business College, and it focuses on educational technology. We do some work with pre-service teacher ed students if we're looking for faculty or instructors who have pre-service teacher ed students. So we'll have like the integrated language arts, middle school, high school. She brings her class over, and we use tools for writing. We do that with like art ed. We go to last school year with the iTech students, undergrads who have to take instructional technology course.
Okay.
But our main focus is for our center is research grants. But
Okay.
within our AT&T classroom, it's professional development with teachers.
With teachers that come from surrounding
Right.
districts.
So
Gotcha.
I don't need to tell you the big Chromebook, craze that's
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. But
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a lot of districts that ask about smart boards.
Okay.
And so our board is very old, and the reason we
Yeah.
invested in a new one is because we have so many districts that ask about them, and they really want to try one out
Yeah,
before
without,
they purchase.
oh, I get it.
So
Totally.
we got a new one
Yep.
for the AT&T classroom, and along with that, we do have some schools that have boards that are still in good shape and run the current software, or they have purchased projectors or whatever. Some have purchased boards, and so when they send their teachers to AT&T, they want them to be able to try, the software. So our problem is right now, the license we got with the board in January, it's, 4 downloads. But then,
Not enough.
like every month, we
Yeah.
have a new morning teacher and her 20 to 25 students, and a new afternoon teacher. So they may not be in a district where they have smart boards or access to a license.
Sure.
So they need
They
some
need it.
way
Yeah.
to log in and be able to develop lessons and try it while they're there that month. It's kind of a waste.
I totally understand.
So right now, I'll be honest, like with a lot of our teachers, we got it in January, so we hit the ground running when the semester started, and probably most of the teachers didn't use it much other than as a very expensive dry erase board.
Yes.
Because, or some way to access the internet because of the money
I'm
issues.
sorry, gosh.
That's all right. That's all
That
right.
stinks.
Onward and upward.
It's like wasted time.
Yeah.
So like going forward, I would maybe even suggest and I can send you directly the link to download so if you know like that teacher's coming in for the month, have them download for the 45-day trial until you can get a hold of a license to give them. Like especially in this transition period where we're getting the licenses for you, you may want to say, hey, there's the link. Please download this before you get to the AT&T
See, we're looking at
classroom.
that as like if they could really use it with some support by us while they're there, then back in the district.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Until they can show, their
Oh.
administrator and other
Yep.
teachers like we need to make this investment.
Because it'll let
You can't do it twice.
You can't, and that's
Right.
yeah.
No, I totally get it. And then I was thinking, once they're face to face with you, you can give them your license code or through email or whatever, and then like they have it ready to go for that first day. So that would be perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then they'll be able to do it with their kiddos.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of the features I'm going to show you today are going to be integrating student devices, like such as the Chromebooks or iPads or whatever you're going to see with working with your teachers. It's much more device friendly now, device agnostic. And the other feature too of the panel is that screen share. So if your students are like working on something and they want to show what they're working on to their teacher, they'd be able to do that fairly easily, depending on which device they're using. So yeah, I'll show you all of that. And I'll also send you some free resources. So if your teachers are like, gosh, I still didn't really learn enough, where can I go for some more? SMART has made, through their Global Professional Learning site, online resources that, videos and that sort of thing that they can walk through at their own pace. So I'll definitely send you guys that
would be
too.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been looking and trying.
It's too hard. It's too hard to find. And really, to be honest, if you don't know where it is,
Right.
it's too hard. Not everything's on YouTube yet, so yeah. All right. Well, cool. Awesome. Thanks for that. That really gives me a better understanding of how the panels are going to be used. So what I'm going to do here is, if you don't mind, you can use your phone or you can use the computer in front of you if you're logged in there. What we're going to do is, we kind of already talked about it, but let's just talk about it one more time. We're going to, let's start the activity. You're going to go to classlab.com. Classlab.com. And you're going to put in this 8-digit code. As a disclaimer, I know this is difficult for younger elementary students to probably grasp, but once they do the code once, it's cached in the memory of the website, and the teacher won't have to help the students do this again. So it's only kind of a one-time thing if they want to use this. So it's 0047. You do not need a space. 0648. I see Justin and Julie are in. I am asking for you to send me your name. However, the teacher, when they set this up, they can do it in anonymous mode. So the students don't necessarily, if they're doing like a poll or, just a quick check for understanding and maybe some kids are shy to share, they don't necessarily have to ask for their students' names. It is nice to know, though, who's contributing what. So we'll go ahead and start the activity. And then what I'm asking you to do is to tell me how technology is being used in your environment currently, and then how do you want it to be used? What's your aspirational use? If you had maybe unlimited amounts of time and professional development and money. So when you submit your answer, you'll text your answer or type your answer in. You have to choose which category that answer is going to go into. And then once the answer is submitted, it should show up in the appropriate category. Screen sharing. Glorified whiteboard. Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Oh, do you want how we're using the smartboard or how we're using?
Just technology in general.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. Smartboard too. That's okay. Like, yeah, eliminate needs for note taking. Demonstration of knowledge projects, communications. Any other thoughts? Daily workflow for aspirational use. Awesome. So what you're looking at here, this feature is called Shout It Out. And it is part of the Smart Learning Suite. So it's part of Notebook, actually. It's in the Smart Lab tool. And I'll show you where that is here shortly.
Is it new?
It's
I
fairly
remember
new.
seeing it in January.
Yeah, it came out last August.
So
Yeah.
it'd be on their 62, 65. Maybe probably on the.
Yeah, whatever version of Notebook was running with that. Yeah.
I love it because it reminds me of Padlet without any of the work.
Yeah.
Padlet is a lot of work.
Padlet's a lot of work to set up.
Yeah.
I love Padlet, but I agree. I
The
agree.
free version is.
Yeah, yeah. How else do you envision teachers using this feature?
This particular.
Yeah, yeah.
Polling.
Polling.
Yeah, or even like, I mean, polling,
Brainstorm.
you know, reflection, brainstorming, but you know, even like the old-fashioned literature circles where they read a passage and then they have to, you know, they used to put something on a worksheet, or you could like do something like this and kids could learn different perspectives from one another, what this
Right.
kid got out of it, and I didn't read that, or
Yeah, that was the main point. I didn't get that. Yeah, yeah.
Concept mapping and
Concept.
general.
Yeah.
Even like math, you know, you solve problems different ways, or, you know, show me a way to group blank and blank, or a way to, yeah.
Yeah.
blank and blank, yeah, because my mind's blank.
Now, one of the cool features too is each answer is movable. It's an object that lives on the notebook page, so it could be moved. So if you realize, gosh, you know, maybe I asked for examples of a verb and a noun, and somebody submitted run under the noun section, it could easily be moved over. So you could talk as a whole group, like, are the answers correct up here? You know, and have that discussion. If we had a computer connected, I was running my full version of the desktop notebook, I'd be able to use my inking tools on top of this and create like a T-chart. You know, so like one of the options with Shout It Out is you're able to, you don't have to have these categories selected. It could just be a blank canvas. Excuse me. And the answers can just be submitted in the blank canvas. And then after the fact, the teacher can create the T-chart and say, okay, now let's go in to categorize our answers. So that's kind of nice.
Hey Kim, what's the significance of the colors of the different?
You know, what they do is they random assign a color to each student. Yeah, yeah. So like right here, if I was the teacher, I would be able to see how each student is basically colored. Yeah. Sorry about that. What else? Oh, by default, the Shout It Out activity allows for 3 contributions per person, but the teacher can monitor that and change that. So they can say, no, I only want 1 answer, or no, I want 5. So you can, you know, set that up ahead of time. Okay. Well, thanks for doing that. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. Let's go back. The other thing, this is just well, let's go forward. One of the nice things is with this particular panel, you can definitely come up and show, like for example, this picture here. Let me show you. It does signify the simultaneous inking. So for example, a student can be up in one color drawing with one color, say yellow, and the other student can be up moving the planets around to the appropriate space and drawing the asteroid belt. So that you can do that at the same time. The reason why I can't do it with the notebook player is because I'm not connected to my computer. So that's why we needed this guy. So we might be able to turn that back on. I know you were restarting it. So we might be able to turn it back on, and so I can show you the feature of the panel. But right now what I'm doing, let's start a little bit backwards. I'm showing you the IQ features. So the IQ features are the features that are basically allowed to be used without a PC connected. So why don't we go through and start with each one, and then hopefully this computer will act appropriately, and then I'll show you the notebook features.
So you call them IQ features?
Oh yeah, so these panels have the ability to operate without a computer attached. And the reason why is it has something that SMART calls an IQ module that's basically plugged into the back of the computer. You can kind of see it. It's got little handles on it and a little antenna back here. And that does over-the-air updates. So as long as your panel's connected to the internet, there's no need to force an update. If an app or one of the modules needs to be updated, it'll do that automatically. So, and I did check that today, and it was updated as of August 9th. So it was done already. Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah. So that worked. Yeah, that worked. The other features that you can do without being connected with a computer are basically across here. In the past, your 6000 series, you used to be able to just swipe up. Do you remember that? But now you have to touch that little bar, as Phoebe demonstrated earlier. Touch the little bar, and then you'll get the menu to pop up. So let's just go left to right. So if the teacher in this particular space needed just some digital whiteboard space, they would go to the whiteboarding feature, which was that very first one. It says whiteboard. And what we've got here, we've basically got an unbound workspace where I can just scroll through, right? And you probably saw this before. And I would be able to take digital ink notes. To take it one step further, though, I could download an app called Smart Cap, K-A-P-P. It's free, and I've got it here. It's green and white, Smart Cap. You can download it to your iOS device or your Android. And what that allows for students to do is to go ahead and basically mimic the digital content on their device. So when I open up the app, it gives me a little QR reader, and I can scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of the whiteboard, and then it will show what I wrote on the app. So I've got 2x equals 10. So what's kind of neat about this, and then it shows me that somebody's connected to my device.
We tried that also with, now with this app, but with the QR reader, and took us to a link, and then you could also do the
Correct.
sharing. But we did find one concern that is it like only one-to-one? Can I have multiple?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, so like since you're already connected, I can't come up and scan it? Okay.
Right.
Is it like only one device?
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, I know it's kind of stinky. And I can't say that won't ever change, but
Sure.
but as it said, so what's kind of nice is I could select my pens, because you got your pens here, and then I could divide, both sides by 2, and then, x equals 5. So it's a two-way street as far as inking goes, so that's kind of nice.
That's why they don't want to make people
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other feature too, and you might have, like what you had just said about sharing, you do have the little share icon in the app, and it will allow for you to get that link, just like what you said you saw before. So I could go to send link, and I can send that link to other people, so at least they have the notes in front of them. Yeah, so say at the end of the day, end of the session, end of the meeting, you could say, here's a link to the notes we took during class, or whatever it is. You also can take a screenshot, and then you can also, it'll just save, like if you took a screenshot, it'll save within the app. So if you wanted to come back and study from those notes or something like that, you definitely can. And then for right-hand corner, share a copy. It allows for you to share to your camera roll. Oops, sorry, let's do that. Shares as a PDF document, or save to Google Drive. So those are going to be your options within the app. So so I'll just go ahead and disconnect. So again, nothing too fancy here. It's just going to be your digital whiteboarding space. And then, once I've saved that, I could go to save, and then it will basically save that session of notes.
Computer okay?
And
I think
then-
I've got it up and running,
You
if
got
you
it?
want to double check.
All right.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's the guy.
Oh, okay. Hi, guy. I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
So we're good on that?
We're good.
I just rebooted it.
Just rebooted it?
Let me know.
That's
Okay.
what he said. Chris said rebooted it.
I
and
thought I
then-
had started, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember. Yeah, no, we didn't.
So then this just shows you the different sessions. It looks like maybe someone on August 2nd was playing with it too. So and they saved their session. So you could go back and of course get an older, session back. Okay. So that's whiteboarding. The other feature, or the next one over, is that notebook player, which I was just in. And what I like about this, let me take you to this space. The notebook player is basically a light version of Smart Notebook. It allows for a teacher or even if a student wanted to do this, create a Smart Notebook file, whether their lesson or lesson example, and what they can do is share it to the board. So like if you were working, you know that you're going to be teaching in here, and you're on your laptop at home and you wanted to be ready to go for the next day, you could actually share your Smart Notebook file to this board from home. And then the next morning it would be here. So that's what I did when I got here and I realized that the computer was being funky. I just shared my file to the board. So the way that you would do that is, and I'll have to show you two views, but the way you would do that is you would, first of all, you'd have to get the code of the board so you know where to send it to. So once the notebook player is open, you have this little, looks like a little phone icon, and then that will tell you how to share the file to the board. And it gives you a little code. And then once you're there, once you're ready with that code, where am I doing? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to input. Let's go down here. I'm going to show you. Okay, I've got Smart Notebook open on the computer. So let's say I'm at home and I've got this, is my file to share. Okay. So in the upper left-hand corner, you've got your file drop-down menu, and you have an option now that says Share. So I can click on Share. You do have to be signed in. Oh, darn it. So I did not sign in. I will sign in, though. Let me sign in a minute. You can sign in with your Google account or your Microsoft account. You've probably had to do that before. But when you go to File Share, say you're signed in, it's going to give you a pop-up window, and it's going to ask you for that code. One of your options will be to share to board, and you just enter in that code just the one time, and it will remember it. So you won't have to enter in a new code every time, or else that would defeat the purpose of being in a different location. So that's how that would work.
That is great.
I know.
Because we have teachers that used to make these lessons and put them on jump drive, and they forget their jump drive, or it doesn't work on it doesn't load on a laptop.
Oh, like me today, yeah. Like my jump drive wasn't being recognized.
That's great.
I know.
Yeah, that's much easier.
It's so much easier. The only downside, and because I'm completely honest here, is the inking is not working in the notebook player yet. So an over-the-air update is going to happen in the next, well, they said it in August. I'm still waiting to see the exact date, but that should be coming where inking will be allowed over, because that is the one feature you're really missing is the inking in the notebook player. But you still can interact. You can run a shout-it-out activity like we just did. So there's some really good features of it, but you are missing that inking piece. Okay, so let's go back to, oh, whoops, no, let's go back here. So notebook player. Sorry. Okay. And then once you share, you'll see, well, today was my file. These are just examples of files, so if you ever wanted to check them out, you certainly could, just to play around with it. And then that's basically what the notebook player allows for you to do. The next one over, these are going to be workspaces. This is going to be a link directly to Smart Amp. Have you played around with Smart Amp yet?
Try.
A little tiny bit. Yeah. So with Smart Amp allows for you to basically have a digital canvas that your students can work together within one space. It's great for project-based learning, great for number of students to contribute content into one space. Think of it as like a really big Google Doc where you aren't confined to margins and lines or anything like that. You have really pretty much free reign of the space. It has improved quite a bit since it first came out. So if you don't mind, I'm going to sign in to show you an example of what the.
Does it specify who contributed where?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. So when you click on a contribution, say it's a web link, it'll show their name, kind of like the shout it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me sign in. Actually, I can sign in up there. Let me just. I have this humongous, large address for Smart Amp, so I always have to remind myself.
Not us, right?
Oh, no.
Yours is 6.90%.
Did you really?
She was over
So you do need a Google account to log in. However, we can migrate if you have districts that are like, oh, we're Office 365, that's not going to work for us. We can migrate those accounts over for them. Just let me know if that's something they're interested in, and I can get that done for the district. So just wanted to make sure. It does tie to their Google domain, so the administrator of the Google domain, however they set up their OUs, or organizational units, for their accounts, will be mimicked by the Smart Amp accounts as well. So that's how it signifies when a teacher logs in versus a student, because it's married to the OU that they're in. So, what a teacher can create classes, but a student can't, right? So same thing here. Any workspace that a teacher creates or a student creates gets automatically saved to their Google Drive. And then if a teacher happens to be using Google Classroom, they can import in their class lists of Google Classroom, and then that way they don't have to create a separate class for Smart Amp, which is nice. Yeah, it's really nice. So let me show you this one. It is so much easier. And this has improved quite a bit. It has been out for several years, and at first I wasn't completely sold on it, I'll be honest. But the more I've been using it and seeing how it's being used, I actually really like it. So what this really, the purpose is meant for is for true collaboration among peers, among students working together. So this particular example is about making an advertising plan for the presidential campaign. So this particular teacher is asking the groups to create 4 items: a bumper sticker, campaign poster, TV ad analysis, and an ad storyboard. So this, right now we're in pan mode, so I can go around and scroll through the different items in the workspace. However, what's nice about this is the teacher can create something called bookmarks, so they can kind of drive where the student is going to go next. So, because some students might think this is chaotic, like, oh boy, I don't know where.
Overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. Yeah, I totally can see where that would be the case for some. So they have an option called bookmarks. So the first bookmark is going to be the instructions, and then the second bookmark is going to be the first assignment, which is going to be the bumper sticker. So then it will direct them to that area. And so the idea here is to either write a clever slogan or something, a phrase. So in this case, they probably would be using the text feature, so they can add text if they like, and they can color, change the color of the text and drag it anywhere they want. And then as they add text, let me show you how that would. Well,
Can they just write with a pen?
say it again. Oh yes, yeah, pens. That is a feature. So so if they want to say, okay, I don't know, vote for me. Gosh, that was a terrible slogan. But let's say I want to see it says K1, because you were asking like, oh, how do I know who contributed? That's my I guess login is K Perillo 1 for this. But if this, they'd have their actual name there or initials there, so you can see who contributed what. The next bookmark then would take me to the poster assignment, where they can create a poster, and in this case, they're saying create a campaign poster. This is a web link to more information. It looks like they can go there and grab some images and symbols, and all they can do is right-click, copy, and paste back into the workspace. If they like, they could also do an image search, where they can search basically the Smart Exchange, or they can search the web using Bing as a search engine, and copy and paste in images there as well. The next one is going to be the TV ad. And this is actually where they could add videos. So if they go into the world symbol here, they can do a search, a safe search in YouTube. The YouTube search should go with the district's web filters. So if the web filter blocks certain things, then it will be blocked here as well for them. Or they can just copy and paste in a URL if they wanted to, if they find something somewhere else. And then finally, the storyboard. This is where they could use ink or text to type. They could also add attachments. So this is where it's really nice if you've got districts that are heavy Chromebook users and they do not feel the need to, they can't download Notebook to the Chromebooks, right? So this is one way for a teacher to add a notebook file into a workspace, and it is interactive. So if the student is wanting to look at the notebook file that the teacher used that day, they would be able to scroll through the pages in the workspace, even on a Chromebook. It makes it cloud-based. Yeah, and then the other feature is to add a PDF worksheet if they wanted to. And then finally, you can add shapes, lines. You can add the student won't have this feature, but the teacher can create an assessment right in the workspace. Not really, I wouldn't use this as a summative assessment, more of just checking in for understanding, that sort of thing. We talked about the attachments, and then there's also a chat feature. So the teacher does get a copy of the chat, though. They would be able to see what the students are saying back and forth to each other. And that does always stay on. It's not a turning on and off feature. It is on. So that's basically AMP in a nutshell, very quickly. When a district purchases a Smart Learning Suite license, they get 1 teacher AMP license and they get 30 student licenses. However, if they've got 32 students in a class, that's usually not a problem for it to overlap. So any questions there about AMP? So, like I said, AMP is cloud-based. You do have basically a bookmark to go straight to SmartAMP from the IQ board, or if you'd rather just go to it on any web browser, you can as well. The next one over is going to be your example for the class lab, and this is going to be, I don't know if you've checked them out, but this is where there's examples here built into this particular website of the different lab activities that are available to you. That there's tons more that the teacher could create on their own. This just shows you basic examples of what's already been made. But basically when the teacher makes one, they add the content and they pick their template, and then they're pretty much done. It's fairly straightforward. But let me show you just an example. If we do, let's find a cute one. Which one is fun? Well, I mean, they're all kind of fun, but I like the monkey ones. Let's see. And when your computer's connected, you'll hear the music play. For some reason, the music it doesn't work when you're not connected with your PC. So if like living things, let's say if I put the wrong answer in, it will bounce it away. And usually the monkey's making a funky noise when he's bounced away. And then the monkey goes in if they're correct. So again, in Notebook, the teacher does have the ability to make their own. So they can decide, okay, I like this template, but I don't want living things, non-living things, I want something else. So they'll create their categories and create their content. Now, these items, too, can also be sent to classlab.com. So a student can be logged in to their device and going through these little activities, these learning activities. So if your teachers are wanting to do like a centers activity, they could have maybe 3 or 4 Chromebooks or maybe just one iPad for every 2 or 3 students. And the student can go around and go through the activity, and they'd get their feedback, and they can go on to the next center, which is kind of nice. So they just would log in with classlab.com just like we did earlier with Shout It Out. And I'll show you another example of that. The next one over is going to be your Chromium browser. It is Chromium, so it's a light version of Chrome. So you can log into your Google account if you like, but it's just going to be basically a light version, meaning you're not going to get full updates like you would like on a Chromebook. It's just going to be a light browser experience. And then finally, you've got your inputs, which is nice to see it this way. The 6,000 panel is not like this, which is nice to see. I like how this is organized. So you can switch between your inputs. Your VGA right now is going to be the dedicated machine here, which you probably know. And then finally, screen share, and that's where we were having some issues with the guest network recognizing. But basically how this would work is it should support Chromecast, Google Cast, AirPlay, and Miracast. So basically the idea here is to, like I'm on my iPad, is to go to Apple AirPlay, and then the smart board, which you've named this number here, should show up. But that's where we're having issues. Yeah. So we've got to figure out why we're having issues with that. And I usually don't have issues with it. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with the guest network. We just got to find the right network that will talk to each other in here.
We're on guest right now?
We are.
Actual multimedia devices.
Should we be on that one?
Yeah, try the multimedia, and then if they can get on it, we can't. Then they can be.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So we'll just go to multimedia. Because look how weak your. Well, no, it's going back up. No.
It's on and off.
It's on and off. Yeah. So
Last
should
time
go
we
here.
totally lost it.
Yeah. Okay. No. So. But then I guess I won't be able to try it because I'm not on multimedia.
Yeah, we can't get to it from guest, but.
Yeah. If anybody else is on multimedia?
Well, I don't know how to tell it with my laptop.
You have your cousin for the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how it would work. Yeah, yeah. And it is kind of nice. I mean, it will mimic, you know, whatever your device is. I haven't really seen too much limitations with it.
Okay.
The
I have to
inking with
register
screen
my
share is
account.
coming. That'll be over there, just so you know. Over there, updates will be coming as well.
I registered it. I have a list of the wireless Macs, I registered them. I didn't do that with my laptop. But you're supposed to be able to get at it.
So once I'm signed in under multimedia devices, I should see this where?
Oh.
Right, it's not gonna until I register my
Your
wireless.
Android? Nope.
Because I registered the wireless.
Would it be at the bottom here?
Well,
And it should eventually
it is
find
difficult.
it.
No, it's not, but it is.
I don't know if someone else has a link to the multimedia.
You should be able to get to it from WPA. You know, when you log-
WPA?
As
Well,
long
let's
as
go to
you're-
WPA and let me log in and see if it works.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, on your device.
On
when
my
you're
device?
your
But
phone.
this is on multimedia though, that wouldn't matter?
Yeah,
We
you
don't
have to
have,
be the
we'd have to be on the
same.
same network,
Right.
right?
Well, that's the way I was told it's supposed to work.
What'd you do, turn it off and then back on?
Oh, no, just,
Click on it.
it might take a second.
It doesn't even show that
Yeah.
WPA now. Last time it
Okay.
doesn't show that either.
You couldn't find it, and neither can you.
It shows up because when I click on it to connect, it tells me I'm offline, yeah.
Still looking.
So a lot of cases, I think what we'll see in
That's why we couldn't
colleges
make
is
it
they will
work.
create a user for that board. So that board would be part of the same network
Okay.
that you would be on,
The,
or in
the
students.
WPA in this case.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wonder if I,
So they're-
and what's WPA?
Flash zone.
It's our,
It's
like,
your own.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, but this multimedia devices thing is new the last
Oh, is it?
couple of months.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
what I
supposed to
thought.
be, I've never seen it work, but then I've only tried
Maybe you're about to.
once.
I think this is the first time
Yeah,
I've
right.
tried it, yeah. And I only know about it because I think you mentioned it to me.
Well,
Maybe
you
Julie
have-
told me.
Yeah, I mentioned it because I registered, we had that Kent Displays
That's
issue.
right.
And I dug in deep on that one, got in over my head because it was overkill.
But you know what?
You have your own
That happened
wireless
yesterday.
network.
I went, 2 weeks ago, the other day, I got into Gary and showed stuff. So yesterday we got a different, a Dwayne came back. And when we went to log on, I put it out. So I transferred changed it.
Okay.
So Dwayne found the IP address and so I guess it just keeps changing.
Yeah. And you can keep looking it up.
Yeah.
But you have that wireless
How bad was
access
that?
point. And anyway, so it works because it's simple.
Okay. So.
It doesn't involve, you know, Aaron set you up
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
real nice.
Yeah, it's funny, I'm connected to the WPA.
Yeah.
And
Well-
so is this,
And it won't.
but it's looking for an Apple TV.
Okay, let's reset.
Students around campus.
I did, I thought about that doing it too, yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
Do they even know to look for that one?
And maybe that's
Project
why.
it over,
Um,
so we need that thing to.
It's for gaming
Maybe
in the
install
dorms.
that.
And they threw Chromecast. and
Which one, Chromecast you recommend?
Apple
I
Ear,
just
or,
stay down there.
Apple TV.
Apple TV. Yeah.
Oh, so, that's something.
And so all of a sudden, you know,
That was a big, yeah.
it's supposed to be the savior.
I
but
tried
it's
to
just
install
another
Chromecast
step.
on my laptop, it didn't work.
Authentication issues that we constantly have. But, you know, your room is
Oh, well,
really nice.
Yeah.
Because all the Chromebooks are pre-logged in.
Yeah, yeah.
You have your own Chromebook.
That's,
so
that's
if
what I'm
you
thinking.
log
I'm
in,
thinking there's no way
log in,
it's like it's spinning.
They're authorized,
Yeah.
they can share with the teacher.
Yeah.
It might take a minute.
Justin,
Yes.
which one of these should I get?
I don't know how to make it work in
Which one's the actual Chromecast?
Yes.
WPA.
That's what I typed
Where,
in.
that's where, oh,
Try Google Cast.
no, it's not. Oh, yeah, okay. Go back to
I
WPA.
just use AirPlay on my phone, so it's.
Yeah, it won't, yeah, it should, it will. Yeah, I use it all.
Video and TV cast, right? Second one? For Chromecast. Try it.
We'll give it a
We'll
whirl.
try it.
We're gonna try it.
I also thought of bringing my phone wireless card, and I
Yeah.
thought maybe we could try it
Connect that,
on,
connect the
you know,
phone.
where there's only like several devices
Yeah.
on, not that you should be able to have to do that, but.
I mean, I guess network that makes it tough, just because that guest network, I mean, I have the same guest network over here in a different area of campus, right?
Right.
So it's,
So many things can go wrong.
Well, if you're a student, no, you're on the WPA.
right.
No matter what. Yeah.
Close and read.
Like, the board's now on WPA.
Cast receiver, so you can close. Yeah.
So let's see.
Oh, yeah, we are in now. It's here.
What should I read?
See.
Oh, you
It's
can
already
see what
on,
you guys
right?
are doing.
But it doesn't,
It's not green.
right.
Yeah, we can always get back
It's
in.
not green ever.
You're gonna see.
205, and this is 221B.
So you're gonna leave for that?
No, I'm gonna look this.
Did you get it?
I'll just run over and.
Hi, Kate.
Tom?
Uh-oh.
You wanna see this?
You want me to?
This
Um,
one
Do
on
that
top
for you?
has.
Do you
I
own
don't.
your card? Is yours?
I do. This
But
one
when
works,
we click on
unless
Chromecast,
it doesn't work
Okay.
anymore, because
Then
they
you must
programmed
not
a
have
lock.
seen my email. So,
Okay.
I'm just.
Now, are you on,
Well,
are you
kind
on?
of
Yeah,
point
I'll just go
down.
let Tom in.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Right, right,
and
right.
that takes us to the screen. And then it wants us to add people or whatever.
Right.
But then we don't see the two other.
Yeah, I wasn't so
It
good
can
for
be
that.
one.
Oh, he said it doesn't work as good.
Yeah,
It's-
it's like
According
it's
to
not,
the,
yeah.
according to the
Right.
Oh.
video, actually, it should like come up.
It
with
should.
the screen
No, it
with that
should.
baby
Yeah.
step.
When I asked him about the 3D printer,
Try
that,
actually,
That
it was
last
even-
time.
it was more of a-
try just casting through the browser and,
What does?
Not as
yeah,
well.
like try,
It
let's just
does
try
not
it.
work.
With the mouse.
But we
it
might
works.
be getting another
It
one.
works.
Now, what
It
Wi-Fi
works.
are you on?
It works,
Same.
just about 2 or 3 weeks.
And how is the filament and everything the same?
One thing that I can. So
Okay.
here's the best part.
That's
So,
just-
not the best part, it's the worst part.
No custom. There's no custom.
I gotta figure out why it's being blocked.
Yeah.
So we had to work with, the manufacturer,
Mhm.
so.
So this is really the last time. We installed this Chromecast and it shows.
And I know that person was
When the
really
little kid come in, it's supposed to,
Yeah.
open
Right.
up and we will have options to select which
Right.
one we want to.
And I've never heard back from them.
Okay.
No, because I
Make them out
opened
throw a
it.
little bit more money than that, but.
Going strong
That's-
since May 2015.
There you go. There's a reason.
Yeah, and I have to say, you know, Bartlett's a Bartlett,
That
phone
phone.
was trouble with something.
About that, but I can already AirPlay, that's why it's confusing.
Right away, you know.
We're gonna be, you know what, I wanna.
If you do find
I'm just gonna try one other thing, and
Not
then
that
if
we
this
need another
doesn't
one
work,
right now.
we're gonna see if we can get some
We
additional
do an
support.
education. type
Because
course.
we shouldn't have this much problems. Are your other panels giving problems too? Just this one?
We haven't tried with.
Haven't
the
tried
other
yet.
one.
Okay.
Because this one was the first one that was installed.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And
Okay.
Alan was working, has been working on other panels.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, this is the only one that we were able to get hardwired.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me try this option.
Already talked about this in the spring, this will be like our 9th year, like 400 educators.
Because then this might tell us if it's not Wi-Fi.
Not sure, you don't think we can- 80.
Yeah, we could, so Linda actually was handling that.
Oh.
Handle it, and she was handling it. Remember that last year, Linda was gonna be a neotech after we met with her. She was gonna sponsor and everything and all that.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even know she left, you
Videos like a good opportunity that a lot of administrators and people that
A lot of interest, all the tech coordinators for the neonates.
That's something we have people to go to.
Neotech.
this is here, Kent State, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It used to be at Akron.
For
and
3
then
years.
We got it back
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
I don't know how many years ago we got it back.
Okay.
It's your 4th year, because, I've always gone to the very first one, first year.
Okay.
I want your input on some some different things that you can suggest for checkout from the IRC. Like items that students might, technology
Yeah.
items that they might want to use.
You're doing Chromebooks now and that sort of thing.
I've got Chromebooks, I've got, the video cameras with the tripods. And we have like,
How about
I'll give you a whole list to take
some
home.
drones?
I would like
Good
that,
idea.
I'm sure. Yeah, I just want to get some more ideas because I'm always trying to come up with something new
For
and,
what age group?
undergraduate and graduate students.
But they
Um,
teach like
They
preschool
teach,
through high school.
yeah,
Okay.
so they all have,
So-
I mean, our college is so diverse, so we're looking at students that are in,
That's
like,
true.
teaching gym.
Or speech pathology, even like the speech.
Then we have
path
speech
students,
pathology and
yeah.
audiology students, then we have, athletic trainers, and then we have, our pre-service teachers. So there's so many different people that I have to
Some
try to
assistive
reach here,
tech.
Assistive
Okay.
tech is huge.
Yeah,
I
that's
really have dug
probably
into
something.
research on that. Phoebe's
Yeah.
been helping me with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of a list of what we have now, just to
Alright,
give you a
that'll
gauge,
work.
and if you can come up with some
Well,
ideas,
like
and you can help me.
Pardon?
Mhm.
Assistive tech.
Darlene's given me a lot.
And what's his name first? She was in Rob or.
Oh, Phil.
Phil, yeah, Phil. And then
Or
also-
Rob Samaro.
Yeah, both.
Mhm.
I don't know,
We
some
should
buildings
see some shit.
have some ideas just for, speech path clinic, like stuff that they.
Well, one of my other
Hey, Justin,
graduate
do you want to
assistants is
come up and be
a doc
my partner?
in speech
Sure.
path.
Who's her name? Do you know?
Allie
So we
Larkin.
do.
Yeah,
Um,
that's up, because they have to do the.
Okay.
We have to put
I
the
need to
planets in
send
the right order, so Mercury,
online materials for clinic.
alright. So what I thought, we're gonna have to do some troubleshooting on your screen share. We'll
That's
even
fine.
get like a higher support person in to help with that.
Very good.
What I thought we would do is just show that tool differentiation. So if you want to pick up a pen and then go to, choose yellow, and then go ahead and draw the sun like you see here. Like on the,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, Justin, let's see what you got.
And then I'm going to draw the asteroid belt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a
Great
Kansas State
song.
song.
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah.
So it is nice, even if you have your pen, it still recognizes your pen as the pen, your finger as the mouse or touch, and then your palm to erase
Oh, nice.
or your fist
Oh, your
to
palm.
erase.
Yeah.
Or the back of the pen.
Or the back of the pen. Yeah. Now your pens are a little bit unique on 7000 series versus the 6000. The 6000 was just like a static object. It didn't have any juice in it.
Yeah.
These are actually battery operated, so they
Can you
get
upgrade your
charged.
pens?
What's that?
Can you
Yeah.
upgrade your pens, like if you want to buy?
No, because the touch is different, and that 6000 series, your touch is recognized by the cameras in the corners,
Okay.
and this is recognized with the touch is actually built into the panel
Oh,
itself.
interesting.
Yeah, it's different. So it actually you need the pens to be a little bit different
They're smarter.
technology. Smarter. Yeah. So okay, thanks
All right,
so
you're
much.
welcome.
Sorry, just wanted-
That's
and of
fun.
course you have your eraser.
Got my doodling done.
Which the 6000 series didn't have, and teachers like to have that eraser.
Yeah,
so-
they do.
Yeah, they do. The other piece, though, I wanted to tell you, especially for your teachers that you may be working with that you teach kindergarten or first grade or even pre-K, then their students have the sweaty, sticky fingers. And so I just bring this as a reminder, but what I tell teachers to have is have some tennis balls on hand, because the students can grip the tennis ball and move objects around with the ball instead of using their
That's a great
their
idea.
their finger is they're like
That's a great idea.
yeah. So tennis balls or any type of squishy kind of object will work. And it should even work with like your pens as well. So if you wanted to write your name or something, you know, sometimes the kids just don't have the finger strength. Where a tennis ball, they can hold that.
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
when you-
yeah.
So that's even with the 6,000?
Of course, yeah, and even the older boards. So if you have districts that have the older boards, that ball will help because it only has that one point of contact. So that'll be nice for them. Okay, so oops, let's go back. Come on. Let's go. A couple things. Oh, FYI, just so you know the difference in case you have any districts that ask. These are our interactive flat panel series. Obviously, you know the 7,000. You know the 6,000. The one that is newer is going to be the 2,000 series. That is the same type of display but non-interactive. So it still has the screen share built in. It just won't have that. Doesn't have touch. So just FYI, that is something that's available.
Quick question before I forget.
Yeah.
Any sort of ETA on the 86-inch boards?
Yeah, they say October.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you hear anything different? Okay.
I was
Wait for me.
question
Yeah.
and the answer.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure you didn't hear anything different. And then they say October, but then sometimes I think that means November.
Okay. Well, and typically that's what happens. So
Yeah.
I just want to get it in the next fiscal
right.
year. So
Exactly. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would think. When does your fiscal year start?
July.
Yeah. There's just we went through the IQ options. There was just some things I wanted to show you as far as the smart software, the notebook software that you see I'm in right now. Nice feature with YouTube integration. It allows for you or for a teacher to integrate a YouTube video directly on the notebook page without having to do a link out to it. You might have already seen that. It's in the little side tab area. Looks like a little puzzle piece. And you have YouTube here, and you can just do a safe search for the YouTube video you're looking for. It will add it to the page directly without the ads or the comments. So it's just the content. Yes.
So that lesson recorder, you might be planning to talk about this, so sorry.
Yeah. No,
the
no.
lesson recorder, so you could record with audio your entire lesson from start to finish?
Yes and no. So the lesson recorder records all movement on one page. So let's say I'm going through order of operations, and I want to go through the steps in a process. It will record that. And the recording lives on the Smart Notebook page. But if you want to record like what you want, audio, like a true screencast, then you would have to go, let me show you what that looks like. In the upper right-hand corner, you have this little like round icon here. That's for your tool selection, and you can customize your toolbar. So here you have something called the Smart Recorder. Let me find it. Am I missing it?
I don't see it yet either.
I know. I'm like, where is it?
Oh, I see screen capture.
Tools, maybe?
No, it should be right here.
Oh, there it is. Left.
Oh gosh, they
Yeah.
changed the icon. I'm looking for this like camera. It's right here. So Smart Recorder, you just drag the little icon up to your toolbar, and then it lives there, and then you can activate it. Man, they've really changed the look of that to not look like that. And then this is where you've got your audio built in. So it records on a Windows machine as a WMV file. On a Mac machine, it's a QuickTime file. And it will record all things on your computer. Meaning, so if I go out to Chrome and I look up a website while I'm recording,
Yeah.
it picks that up.
And all audio is
inking,
recorded.
all audio.
So
as long as you have,
like we could have done that.
Well, I was just thinking like for flipped classroom
Oh, yeah.
style, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You could put that in like Google Classroom and
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's actually, I had a couple students on homebound instruction my last year when I was in the classroom, and I used this, and because they didn't have notebook on their
Yeah.
computers, obviously, but they had a video player
Yeah.
on their computer, so I just would record my lessons and send it to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, through the homebound instructor. But with with Google sharing and everything. So this is basically Smart's version of Screencastify, and you're not limited to a time. Like you can record as much as you want. So yeah, that's Smart Recorder. Thanks for asking that. I probably wouldn't have brought that up. Okay, so that's the YouTube, because I always use YouTube quite a bit. This one is, if you don't mind, we're going to remove students. Let's get you back. Remove students. So if you don't mind, this is Smart's version of the updated clickers. Do you remember the clickers years ago?
Yeah.
They called it Smart Response. Now they call it Smart Response 2 because it's like a version 2. So you're going to go to classlab.com again. So on your iPad or phone or computer, anything that's web enabled, I'll go there with you too, so I can just follow along. So I'm just going to go to classlab.com. We do have a new code this time because I logged into a different computer. So sorry about that. That reset the code. So ClassLab. Oops. Okay, so Julie and I are in. So what this allows for teachers to do formative assessing, and even if they choose to do some type of summative assessing as well, and the students take the assessment on their device at their own pace. So we'll go ahead and start the activity. And you should see the questions then in front of you. Okay, this is life in the solar system. We can remember this, I know. Oh. And as we answer the questions, the teacher will see the percentage done. Okay. Oh, there's only one question. Okay. I forgot that. Okay. Well, that's easy. Okay. So as the teacher, I could show the question. So let's say I wanted to kind of pause as I'm giving the assessment, say, oh, let's look at this question. What did you all think about that? Or maybe I need to explain something while the students are taking the assessment. They could. But you can add as many questions as you need to. What's kind of nice is you can ask the students to, or you can add images to your question like you saw, and the students can submit image answers back. So like, let's say they're doing like the shout it out activity, you can do image answers as well, where the students can walk around and do like an artifact walk. Maybe they're looking for angles in the room and taking pictures with their device of the evidence of the angles, and then they can submit that as an answer. Maybe they're going around and looking at different plant life around the buildings. They can submit that as an answer or something like that. So now I could go to show live results. We all answered the same. How about that? Woohoo! Yeah. So we did a good job. However, the teacher doesn't have to do this. If they're doing more of a summative assessment, they may not even be showing this, as the assessment is running. So I can end the assessment here, and then I can get the results. So if I go to export results, let's just do it real quick on the desktop. I'll just save it there, just so it's quick. And let me show you what that data sheet looks like, because this is going to be real important for teachers if they're wanting to use it for grading purposes. They might want to look at the spreadsheet after. So it shows our names, and it shows what we answered. Now, if there was because this was an opinion question, there's no right or wrong answer, but the way the teacher could set this up is if it's going to be a correct or incorrect answer, and then they would see that.
Also, you haven't set the correct answer, so it's not showing an incorrect.
Correct. Yeah, so if I would have said you know, whatever. And say the answer was A and she answered B, it would show in the red column that she got it wrong. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it looks like. That's an Excel spreadsheet. So that's the updated version of response. So when you're showing your teachers how to create something like that, what you would do, I'm in Smart Notebook right now, and what you would do is you go to this little Android guide, Smart Lab, and this is where you're going to see all of the lab options. So remember we did shout it out, and then now we've done response. So you should be able, oh, here we go. Just a little slow. So, okay, gives you a little tutorial at first. So shout it out, it's in alphabetical order. So here's response, and here's shout it out. So, and I'm telling you, it walks you through it step by step on how to create it. So it's very easy, very intuitive. The only thing I would advise is if a teacher was creating a response activity, they can do multiple choice, multiple answer, poll, opinion, short answer, true and false. I would have them make sure they save the content that they're writing up as their assessment, because in that way they could actually use that content again in another lab activity. So they don't have to type it again. So that's really nice to do that. Anytime an item uses devices, it will tell you, say, shout it out requires devices, response requires it. Some of these others don't require it, but you could use it. So let me show you like an example of how you would use a couple others. We won't go through them all, but this is another one. So if you're in class lab, I'm going to go ahead and start the activity for you. You won't need to, you shouldn't need to log in again. If you just go to classlab.com, it should load right in front of you, hopefully. Yeah, here, mine loaded. And you can, this is just fill in the blank activity where the students can do this at their own pace. And then at the end, you can check your answers. I got none of them right because I wasn't even reading it. But, or the other option is you could do a centers activity and have the students come up to the board and, you know, move the items to the correct spaces. So it's, you know, it's going to be up to the teacher how they would like to, you know, go through these activities. There's a couple others I would love to show you. Let's go to. Oh, this one's a fun one. Do we have sound? I wonder.
You should.
We should, right?
You're working hard.
I wonder why.
I did too. I got them all right. Well, look at you.
Right. Maybe it isn't until I start. Maybe when I start it, it'll start the sound. But I thought it started. Let's do a new one. This is called Monster. You should automatically be pulled in. This is called Monster Quiz. And what this is, this allows for a teacher to assess the students in groups. So it's going to ask me to divide us into teams. Let's just do 2 teams. So we've got.
Girls against boys.
Yeah. Oh, well. So that's interesting. So right now it automatically divides us up, but the teacher might say, "Oh no, Bruce and Kim should not be in the same group." So I could move, you know, the students around if I wanted to. So we've got fire divers and mystery boxers. Okay. So as you answer the questions correctly, your monster starts to break out of the box. So the first monster to be broken out. Yeah. So we'll start. And I have to remind myself what questions these are, but I hope they're not too hard. Oh boy.
I need the help.
I know, right?
I'm guessing.
Oh, woohoo! I got that one.
I messed up.
Keep trying. mystery boxers are
Why'd you make these so hard?
Sometimes I forget what I did. What? Good thing I didn't do the frog trivia. You would have been really mad at me then. We're done.
Get it?
Sparks and magic. I love that. Oh, good. Fire divers. Are we in? Are we done?
We're there, we're close.
1 out of 5 correct.
Oh, we beat that.
We're supposed to have sound. Oh, music was turned off. Aw, that was my fault. Sorry about that.
We're so close. You guys beat us. Baby.
Aw, mystery boxers won. So I don't know, that might be a fun one. This one is, this one,
We still won.
yeah. Response and shout it out definitely need devices. So
Okay.
the others
Are
are.
those the only two?
Let's see, shout it out, response, and
Say that again,
yeah, mystery quiz, or monsters quiz. So
Oh.
monsters quiz, shout it out, and response
Okay.
need devices.
yeah.
Web enabled device. Let's see what this. Oh, we saw that one already.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the older version that we couldn't use the exact numbers?
Let's go here.
It was because of the software.
But it's also in here.
None that I know of.
tried this.
Oh, really?
I also have that example thing. But
The other thing that's built in to Smart Notebook now are the math tools. So I don't know if you remember me, if you ever worked with smart users in the past, you had to buy math tools as an additional license, so you don't have to do that anymore. So in the little puzzle piece and the toolbar, you're going to see equation editor and equation ink editor. So like for example, if I were just to come up and write my name, and I wanted to say turn that into text, I could just select the drop down arrow of the box once it's selected and choose, recognize Kim, and then it changes to text, right? Well, when a math teacher was trying to write an equation and do that, it was like, it didn't always recognize it. So what they've done is they have a equation ink editor built in now. So if a teacher says, okay, x squared equals 16, my real difficult problem here, it will say, oh, is this what you want? And then you just say, yes, that's what I want, and then it places it on the page. So then that way it will recognize it a little bit better. You also have an equation editor, so if your student or your teacher wanted to actually type like fractions or anything with the math symbols, they would be able to do that much easier. Where before they were having to probably copy and paste that in, and that's a pain. So they built that in.
Which one did you touch first?
Oh, sure.
To convert it?
Well, yep. So it was this little puzzle piece, and then the little sigma symbol with the pen.
Okay.
And then the one above that is text.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing about the math tools that are built in, let's say I draw a circle here, and I want to show like division, shape division. I can choose my circle, go to the drop-down menu, choose divide shape, and then it's going to ask me, well, how many parts do you want? Let's do 6. Oops. Ah. And then each piece is separate. And you can even color code each piece as well. So if I wanted to select one of the pie pieces, I can go to my color palette and say, okay, that's going to be yellow. And then I can show, like visually show 1/6. Where before, your teachers are having to draw all this, and it's just much harder. But, So that's nice. These are just, some little features. A lot of people don't know that they're there. I just like to show it, just so you're aware, because you're working with the folks that are going to be using it. You can also show and hide vertices, angles, and lengths now. So that's all built in. So vertices, angles, lengths. And then as the student moves the object around, so does the interior angles and the side lengths. But those are the basics, some of the new features of Smart Learning Suite. The other place I will show you before we kind of wrap up is the Smart Exchange. This is where a lot of people will go for online free resources of smart notebook files that have already been made for them. You can search by subject area, but really what I want to show you is you can search by file type. So if you're looking like, oh yeah, what was that Smart Amp thing? How do I get started with workspaces? You've got Amp workspace templates here. You've got lab activities already made. You've got notebook lessons already made. Widgets are going to be like timers and Voki avatars. What else they've got here? Random objects. There's all kinds of little fun things in here that you can download. Yeah. So I just wanted to show you that because this is a place kind of like Pinterest, or you could get lost for like hours looking.
Yeah. I have.
yeah, it's just crazy. And you can even search by standards. You select your state. Well, it's going to be probably Common Core. Well, Common Core is going to be in here as well, but each state will be here. But you can search by standards too, and it'll come up with aligned lessons. But those are, some of the places I go. What I'm going to do though is send you specifically to our Global Professional Learning site, so you can get those online courses. They're free, just to get people started with Notebook. There's also a course on AMP too. Any specific questions?
No, the website that you're going to share with us, it has very basic, like, here's some videos to get you started using this board.
It's an actual course, so it'll say, like, it'll walk you through from bolts to nuts, like, here's the tool.
To send out an email to all of our faculty letting them know about the new boards before they come to teach this September. So to include that link would be really helpful, because that way they can't come back at me and say, you never taught us how to use this.
There are YouTube. Did you guys say you do have a 6,000 panel somewhere, or is that just a demo?
Yeah.
That one has it. Okay. So there's also a YouTube channel that specifically walks through the 6,000 panel. Let me see what I can find on the 7,000, because they have to know the hardware too, to get started. Yeah.
You can send the channel for the 6,000.
I will for sure. Let me just write myself some notes here. Yeah, I'll send you all of that. I was going to tell you one other thing. Yeah, and once you have, feel free to email me with any, like, hey, do you have a resource on this or that? I mean, I probably do.
Okay.
So I'll just,
Great, thank you. Yeah, it was extremely helpful.
Good. Yeah, and I want you to be successful. I want you to be able to use it for the purpose you want it to be used for. So if if you ever feel like, gosh, I still need to know how to do this, just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
So I'll send the GPL.
The last thing I wanted was to spend all this money on these
No.
boards and then have no idea how to show people to use them.
Absolutely.
So this is really, really helpful. Yeah, thank you for setting this up, Justin.
And we do have, like I said, professional development crew that if you ever need download or refresh.
Full days, yeah.
In fact, what year?
Steve, when we met in January, because I used to be a speech therapist, so I think this just has endless possibilities for like language intervention. Yeah. And so I invited, and unfortunately it was winter break, and it's like literally like 2 days after.
Yeah.
So nobody was on campus, but I did get somebody from our speech faculty to come over, and I just think the way it was presented, it just, there was no anchor for that faculty member to really see how the board could tie problem too is that the clinical rooms are small, so they may not even be big enough for a board. Like where they do the language group.
Yeah,
I don't think they do.
Let me, now that you mention this, like, let's say, this is just what I'm thinking here, now that you mentioned the speech and language. Let's just say, this has the ability to insert in sound into your objects. So what I mean is, let me show you real quick. I'm just going to set up the page super quick.
Yeah, why would you go in if you're not a client?
that's Jason's territory.
Well, okay. Well, let's just pretend this is.
Partner, you can just take yes, take yes off.
The
Part of it.
professions.
Part, yeah. So what's cool about this, let's say you're on your laptop. All your laptops have built-in microphones. If I was here working, I would need an external mic, you know, of some sort. I usually buy that Logitech for like $20 or something, yeah. So you probably have one laying around. So what you're able to do, if you choose the object and you want to add sound, because for ELL learners or you know, even to get that audio reinforcement, so when a student comes up and touches an object, they hear what that word is or that object is. So you can go to the option for sound, and you can actually, your option here is to start recording. So you can record your voice saying that object's name. And then you could record up to a minute in length. So it could even be used for a student portfolio. So if a student is, like my daughter she struggled with reading, so I would record her reading to herself so she could hear herself like, oh, yeah, that wasn't that great. Or, you know, she could give herself feedback and hear herself read, because she was getting really frustrated. And I just thought this would be a great idea for students to do something similar to that, if, you know, in the elementary grades. Or even if you have any music teachers that are wanting to assess where the students are in orchestra or band or something like that with a
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually do get a lot of my education students that are in music, so this is perfect for them, because I really never have many ideas or ways to guide them.
Right.
Because they're like, well, what kind of smart lesson am I going to make?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is perfect.
Adding sound. And the other option, now, when you record, you can have as many objects on the page as you want and have a recording to each object. So, but they are a minute in length only limitation. However, if you wanted to browse your computer for an MP3 sound clip, that can be as long as it needs to be. So, like, the other way I've seen it being used is if, you know, if you have story time with your students and you're wanting to read a passage, if you can record or attach sound of the sound effects that go along with that story. So like Al Moon, you know, where it's real descriptive language where a student or a kid is walking on the snow and his feet are crunching. They actually, I found a teacher do a lesson where she recorded herself crunching her feet on the snow. And then there was like a train whistle, and there was a dog barking. So you could add any of that. A lot of times I'll tell teachers to go to search for sound effects, you know, free sound effects or royalty-friendly sound effects, and you can usually find them. Just download them as an MP3, and you can record them or attach them to any object. So they could be a reading passage, it can be an image, it could be a, you know, anything on the notebook.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. Okay. Just thought when I heard you say that, I thought that might be a good idea. And then I'm going to send you the courses. I'm going to send you the YouTube videos. The licenses. So that's the most important. So when you're ready to let me know how many licenses you need, and if you're wanting to use like the same license code that you've received. I don't know if you want to have a different one or however you want to do it.
I'm just going to meet with our IT guy and find out, because we have so many different ones in computer labs, plus we have the new boards that we're going to be putting in. Do you want me to only count the ones we currently have, the boards in those classrooms, and then update the software in the other rooms when we get the other boards. Does that make sense?
I guess you're gonna need them for the notebooks. Consider the amount of people that will be using the notebook software.
Right.
So
So with your
That's a lot.
visitors in the
That's a lot.
AT&T classroom,
Yeah, it's
Well,
gonna be
it's
like
really,
a lot,
I mean,
lot.
even if it's just a semester, it's still the same license, it just has a new person using it for the following semester, right?
So
Maybe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but.
well, once it's installed, it counts. You know what I mean? So if that person goes away and it's like they're, you know, and a new person comes,
they still have that license.
right, the old one person still has that
Would you log
license.
in with an email or how? Like I'm trying to figure out for us.
Right.
So every month there's 2 new teachers.
Every month there's 2 new.
Yeah. And then, 20 to 27 different kids, morning and afternoon, so you're talking 50-some.
Would you envision that the kids use Notebook on their devices, or would they just be interacting like we did with with the class lab?
Teacher, all of our schools, with the exception of one that's come in the last 3 years, are all Google Classroom. So, I could see them using the workspace.
Okay, okay. Then you should be good
If
with
I could be
AMP.
able to experience it while they're there.
Yeah, yeah. So they may not need Notebook, but they might need AMP, and then of course Class Lab to, and you don't need a license for that or anything.
I'm just thinking as far as ours go here,
Yeah.
that we're gonna be putting them in all of the computer labs. The computers that we
Gotcha.
have here in the building will have
Yes,
it on
because
there.
you're student teachers.
Then my
Yes.
student teachers, though, when they
Yes.
leave the building and they're working on their assignment, they would have to have the 45-day trial then.
Right.
But see, the problem with that is when they use that trial, when they go to student teach,
Then
and they want to create lessons, and they can't create a new trial
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
And they don't have any money,
Right.
So we want them to be able to take away the license.
And, well, or not have to use the 45-day trial until they're a student teacher.
Let me ask you this, is
Mhm.
this a one-time thing, or next year when I get the
Rolling.
new boards and stuff, I can contact you and say, look, we need more?
Yeah, I would envision it would be a constant relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. Because also, it is a yearly subscription. So, worst case scenario, let's say the folks that you do interact with and need the license, they're going to have it good for a year, even if they don't see you again. You know what I mean? So I see it as, as rolling, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll talk to my manager about it, but I would envision.
Yeah, I just want to make sure your manager
Yeah.
understands
That
that
it's
is
bigger than what we
This is
thought.
really
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
Because we're really trying to reach these pre-service teachers and make sure they're prepared.
Yes.
The other thing that happens with the pre-service teachers I've talked to, they go to schools where there are smart boards, and the
Oh, yeah.
actual district teacher is supposed to be supervising them, will say to them, do you know how to use this, I know how to use this. So
Oh, I
it's
know.
like a chance for Kent State to show, these teachers how to use a smart
Yeah,
board.
I agree. No, the relationship really and the benefits are good for all of us.
Yeah.
So
So in exchange for that, right, as the sales guy that I am, we can get into some other buildings, some other schools.
Oh, we as a college have 5 buildings,
Okay.
so there's no problem with getting
Okay.
another building.
Speech
Yeah,
happens
you're
in-
only at the very surface
Where's the
here
tip?
right
I
now.
get it.
Yeah.
So
Tip of
going
the
back to
iceberg.
AT&T,
And
so-
all Alan's hearing
Yeah.
over here is, more
More.
installation.
I know.
Yeah.
Just for the
Fine.
record,
And
if
he
you
gets
get
to work
burned
with
out,
us
and
and
it's too
other
much to
people.
handle, we can do install.
Yeah,
Yes.
good
So
point.
here.
Yeah.
So for us, if I want the teacher to be able to work from home on a lesson.
Right.
Then that is.
Then they
good.
need it too.
Yeah, they would.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's.
Well, then,
Or can we have these kind of, mock, like AT&T morning teacher, AT&T afternoon teacher, so that they can, but then we just change the password every time the teacher changes? Can we do something like that?
That's a good idea.
Oh, thank you.
No, just
Um,
limit the number.
So then you wouldn't have to give us so many,
sure.
but then, but with the students, but with the
Yeah.
kids.
Unfortunately, I wish it was just as simple as a login.
But it's not.
Yeah.
But if you want Notebook desktop, it actually has to be installed.
But then
that's
Microsoft.
that's full.
If you're going to use the class lab features. If you're not, then you don't have to log in.
Because, and I'm still, I mean, I need flashcards and I have to study this. So notebook is like the software.
Correct.
Class lab
Is the
like
website.
yeah, and you create content.
Or that's where the students log in to
Yeah.
take the, to do the
Full on.
assessments and stuff.
I mean, I think for a teacher to see, wow, this is what
Yeah,
a smartboard
I agree.
does.
I agree.
Because
Yeah.
the principal said, well, you can just come in and smartboard. Oh, not really, I can just use.
Well, I have a faculty here that just challenged me in the hallway the other day because,
Why did I use smartboard?
do you want to know who it was? Yeah, he was like, there is no you tell me how this improves pedagogy,
Are
and
you
you tell
kidding
me
me?
how this improves student learning. Those
Yeah.
were his words.
Yeah.
And then he kept walking away as I'm trying to tell him.
You're trying to
and
talk
I'm
to
like,
him.
you don't even want to hear it. I'm screaming down the hall.
Handle the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
anyway, we do
Yeah.
have faculty here that do question why I just spent all the money I did on just the
Yeah, I
board. And they're gonna really question me when I buy double that next year, but I do see the potential. And
Yeah.
I think that if we really start teaching that to
Yeah.
everyone and sharing it,
People learn to
then
use it.
I just have to get it out there and tell
Right.
people what they're capable of.
Education, yeah, and same here. I mean, when even school districts that buy or subscribe to the Smart Learning Suite, they don't even really know what they have. And
Yeah.
I go in and I show them, and they're like, oh, we had that? Yeah, you've had that for like over a year.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
So these
Yeah.
4 boards that we just bought means that I currently have 16.
60 notebook licenses.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But, I mean, just tell me the number you want.
I will.
Just,
You know, I'm
just
I'm
tell
gonna
me the
get with
number.
them first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just
and
tell me.
I
We'll
will.
just- even if it's a lot.
How do you
yeah.
manage those 16 licenses?
That's
People that
the only
download
problem.
those,
Uh-huh.
you control who has access to you have a key?
Correct. There will be a 25-digit license code
Okay.
that will be given to activate the software, at some point during that 45-day trial. So you have to decide who is going to manage those keys for sure.
It's
And
our
Yeah.
tech office. They're
Yeah.
currently managing it.
Okay, yeah.
I send them.
Oh, okay.
all
So
the-
Matt, like,
That's
for
Matt,
Matt
I
Sharp or
send everything
something?
over there to them, yeah.
And then, so then the other question was, so not only how many, but do you just want to use that one license code for all the
Right.
numbers? Would that just be easier? Or do
It
you
probably
want?
would in this case, I would think,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, then I'll just,
It'll
and if you
simplify
change your
things
mind, just
for
let me know. Yeah, it might simplify things, so I'll just say same number.
Yeah, but I'll definitely be in touch.
Okay.
Soon. I'll get with
Well,
them
I'll follow
tomorrow.
up, first thing in the morning with the resources.
Okay, great.
And then you'll just have my contact information, just let me know.
Sounds
And then
good.
we'll, it shouldn't take long to get the licenses.
And I'll get with you, and then.
Well, I mean, to get the number
Data.
boosted.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
already have the license code,
Yeah,
just get the
no
number
problem.
boosted. Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
for